Jon, Anik, and Kenny Florian podcast. Jon, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
I f***ing love him. I can't get enough of him.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole.
There are a couple of absolutely self-involved bull artists.
Here are your hosts, Jon, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
That's some bang.
Oh, give me all of that Kenny Florian on pay-per-view. You got to pay for KenFlo's commentary last weekend. $49.99 ESPN Plus. Great to have you with us. Sunday, November 26, 2023. It is episode 451 of the Jon Kenny Podcast presented by DraftKings. Thank you for everybody joining us on the DraftKings YouTube channel, or if you have found us on the DraftKings network, power to you. Nice t-shirt, KenFlo. What's going on? Good morning.
How are you, man? I'm a little short on sleep. I now kind of know how you feel after these pay-per-views, man. But I'm feeling good. I'm excited for the show, and it's great to talk to you.
So pay-per-view was Friday night, and then you went home Saturday. Quick jaunt there from Washington, D.C. to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, it was a quick one, so that wasn't so bad. Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you eat this weekend, huh?
Oh gosh. Well, I did. I actually did a little Thanksgiving with my buddy Ryan Hall and his friends and family. So that was cool. So I did get to experience a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we did notice the PFL commentator Thanksgiving dinner was not attended by Kenny Florian.
It was not. I was not there. But the suit was a little tight. Those buttons, dude, were ready to fly out.
Yeah,
that was. I need to adjust the suit or adjust my dieting. Yeah.
All right, well, we have a lot to get to. We're going to recap the pay-per-view. Impa Kasanganay, the newly minted belt holder in the PFL's light heavyweight division, is going to join us. We will also talk to Ray Longo. We'll also get your predictions for Arman Tsarukyan and Beneil Dariush. I think 7 picks coming up from the fellas on UFC Fight Night, and also joining us in studio today. That's right. My twin brother. Easy like Sunday morning. What's up? Jason Anik at Boston Anik on Instagram. It's good to see you, Jay. Figured you could chime in at times here today. Kenny loves you. My wife was like, did you vet this with KenFlo? I was like, I think Kenny's actually okay with it. Kenny's not a big ego guy, incidentally, so he was okay with it.
Oh, great to be here. I'm just going to have to resist the temptation talking shit to you, Jon. Someone got to hold you accountable here.
So what is it the Anik and Florian and Anik podcast? Is that what's going on? Or is it Anik Florian? What are we doing here, guys?
Well, the beauty is I'm the director of the show, so I can just take him out of the shot anytime I got him up, right? We'll go back to the 3-shot now. But no, I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't already made fun of my white Viore shorts that are riding up, you know? But it is what it is. But it's good to have Jay in studio, and he's going to help us out with a few things. And actually, the inspiration to do this, well, we built out a studio. He lives right around the corner. But Campbell McLaren from Kombache America chimed in about this Bellator death, for lack of a better way to put it, or this acquisition from the PFL. So eventually we're going to get to that tweet from Campbell. But it's great to have Jay with us for headlines today. And we will certainly be bringing you into the conversation at times. But Kenny, let us begin, if we could, with that acquisition. The PFL acquires Bellator. I mean, KenFlo probably knew that this was coming. This was long rumored. Now it is an actuality, an eventuality, and it means there's a whole lot of talent under one banner and a lot of big-time fights that are set to materialize probably as early as first quarter 2024. So I have a lot of thoughts as somebody who called Bellator 1 back in 2009. I'm not going to, in a long-winded way, share all of those thoughts today, but I would like to turn it over to you and get your thoughts on what seemingly is seismic news in the mixed martial arts world.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think it's huge news. I think this is exactly what the PFL needed to take it to that next level. And I think that if you want to, be competitive in this market, that's what you got to do. You got to make big moves. And I think that, they definitely have more of a long-term vision for this sport, for the PFL brand in general. And I think bringing Bellator on under the umbrella and getting all those great fighters now, I think it gives the fans much more opportunity to see the fights that they want to see. And, anytime you're able to do that, I think you're going to bring in more viewership. So I'm excited to see what the approach is going to be. I certainly don't have all the details of how they're going to approach that. But exciting times in the year to come for sure.
big things. I think Patchy Mix is the name that is on the tip of everyone's tongue in terms of maybe the highest level talent that is actually going to be fighting now for the PFL. But it's very exciting news. And, I called Bellator 1 back in 2009. So I guess it's a little bit sad to see the name now go away with finality when I think about the initial conversations with Bjorn Rebney about what we were going to actually call the proving ground on which these athletes competed. Were we going to call it the Bellator Circle? And I think of, just them talking to us about Bellator being the Latin word for warrior and just the genesis of that name. And, promotionally, obviously things weren't perfect all the time, but that is the promotion that gave me my start calling mixed martial arts. And even though maybe it was ESPN MMA Live that laid the foundation for me going to the UFC, it does stand to reason that if I was not afforded that opportunity by Bjorn Rebney and Bellator, that I wouldn't be calling fights for the UFC today. So I'm supremely appreciative of that. I do want to get to this tweet, if I could, from Campbell McLaren. And certainly the qualifier is that he is the president and owner, or at least the president of Combate Americas, right, Jay? But this is what he had to say about Bellator no longer being in the MMA space.
Well, and if you don't mind, excuse me, before I get to the tweet, for those of you who don't know this name, Campbell McLaren, there are a lot of young UFC fans out there. This dude co-founded the UFC.
Right. Yep.
It was originally, I guess, his vision was based on the video game Mortal Kombat, I guess, and sort of bringing this into reality. He was the one who picked Joe Rogan to do post-fight interviews back in the day. That was UFC 12. So it's not as if this guy doesn't have a voice.
Right.
So he, tweets this out, and I quote, "I know you're not supposed to speak ill of the dead, but good riddance, Bellator. Mediocrity should not be rewarded. I started this sport. I have high standards," end quote. Just thought it was fascinating, and I'll let you guys talk up about it. But interesting to read that. He is certainly opinionated at all times, but I respect the guy, and he's been there, done that. To me, I think it's all gravy. I think it's a phenomenal acquisition, merger. But I thought that tweet, it caught my eye. I wanted to bring to your attention.
All right, and you don't have to look at your fucking 2 camera when I'm on the 3 shot for the record. That's bad. So, yeah, I mean, KenFlo, obviously, you have a lot of experience when it comes to this conversation. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but you have called fights for the 2 biggest promotions in MMA, the UFC and the PFL, and you've dealt with all sorts of different producers and directors and production dynamics nationally and internationally and otherwise. So, yeah, I mean, certainly there were times where maybe from a live production standpoint, Bellator left a little bit to be desired or their shows were too infrequent, but I do believe that this is really a good thing for the sport. And even just when I look at this past weekend for the PFL, Kayla Harrison lays the foundation for a fight with Cyborg, and your chief executive says, slow your roll. Larissa Pacheco is going to fight for the title, right? Like, right. I just think that overall this is going to be a good thing. And that's all I'll say in terms of Bellator's mediocrity.
Yeah. Listen, I think that I'm a big proponent of the free and open market. I think anytime you have more competition, I think that it raises the level of everybody involved. And I think that, for the PFL to have taken, to take it to that next level, they needed a larger roster, right? They just did. They needed better fighters, more fighters to be able to promote more shows and to promote fights that all the mixed martial arts fans want to see. So I think this was a big leveling up by the organization. It is my understanding that Bellator or the Bellator brand or name will probably stick around for at least 2024. And then at some point will probably be absorbed completely under the PFL umbrella. Yeah, I'm excited, man. And I think, besides Patchy Mix, I think another guy that people talk about it maybe being the best in his division is Johnny Eblen. He's another guy, that I think is another guy who's extremely dominant right now, who I'm curious to see fight in the PFL or under the PFL umbrella, whether it's at 185 or 205. I think he probably wants to stick at 185 pounds, but I think that it's gonna take some adjusting though from the organization of developing these divisions and seeing how they're going to maximize these opportunities with all these great fighters that are now part of the PFL organization.
Cody chimes in, the TV deal for Bellator runs through 2024. So perhaps Patchy Mix and Johnny Eblen, their next fights would actually be loosely called Bellator fights under that PFL banner. But either way, Good stuff for KenFlo, right? KenFlo likes high-level mixed martial arts, if you haven't listened to our podcast before, right? Right, Jay? Am I right? KenFlo likes that high-level stuff, right? KenFlo don't have a lot of time for that fucking low-level stuff. All right. Main event, PFL pay-per-view, Olivier Aubin-Mercier over Clay Collard. I'm almost glad I don't call Clay Collard fights because I just would go Boston accent every time. It's fucking Clay Collard. So Collard on the wrong end of a lot of circumstances, judging and otherwise throughout his PFL run. He gets the crack here at the world title, but it is Olivier Aubin-Mercier, now a two-time millionaire. He wins it by unanimous decision, 49-46. Before we get to the wicked telling comments from OAM after the fight, your thoughts on this main event and another world championship, so to speak, for your former teammate, Olivier Aubin-Mercier.
Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic main event. Clay Collard is an absolute savage, man. He made some huge improvements in this fight. I think still it was kind of what makes Clay Collard so exciting is also the very same thing that makes him vulnerable or that causes him to make some mistakes during some very critical moments in the round. And I think that it didn't make the best decisions out there, but he did make it a very exciting fight for the most part. I think for OAM, he kind of needed to go to his bread and butter, which is grappling, getting guys on the ground and taking their back and controlling them. Clay Collard is a guy that brings so much chaos into the cage where you don't want to entertain that. Clay Collard is at his best when he is bringing that havoc for each and every round. And I think for OAM, he found out very quickly that he was there to fight and bring that chaos. And OAM had to settle him down tremendously. And I thought that while Clay did have some very good rounds, I thought he won at least one, maybe two there against OAM. And I thought Olivier did a great job in round 5 to take him down, bring it back under his control. Because he definitely was just dealing with one wheel heading into probably round 2 and 3. I mean, his leg was really messed up early. Clay was destroying that lead leg calf of OAM and also like really attacking that body. So you could see Olivier was definitely slowing down and the momentum was shifting towards Clay Collard. And it was great to see OAM get that second belt. He's been working so dang hard on that. He lives a very simple lifestyle. He's been grinding for a very long time. He's made huge improvements over the last few years, has remained undefeated in the PFL. However, the story would have been pretty dang cool, too, to see Clay Collard win after everything that he's been through. You know, I've lost my youngest brother. Obviously you and your brothers are so close, but imagine losing your brother 1 year and then losing your other brother the next year under just crazy circumstances. And, everything that he's dealt with, to maybe some bad decisions in the cage and all this stuff to power through and stay focused and to make improvements and to stay laser focused on your goal is not an easy thing when you're dealing with all that crap. But he is a warrior through and through. Clay should still be applauded for an amazing season. But OAM, just too much, too skilled, too smart.
Yeah, beautifully put as usual. And yeah, Clay Collard's going to be heard from in the future. He's still going to make a lot of money as a prize fighter in mixed martial arts, in boxing. And what we're going to get to now, this seeming OAM exit, is probably a good thing for Clay Collard, at least in terms of the championship pecking order in the PFL. Yeah. So I would direct you to an interview on MMA Junkie with Olivier Aubin-Mercier and his fellow Canadian Mike Bond. It's only about 5 minutes. I watched the whole thing this morning and just want to pluck some of these quotes from Olivier. And I'm sure, Kenny, you are tuned into this narrative at this point in time because he's certainly going to step away from the game for a year, but he sounds like a fighter who's going to retire. And I think there's a broader conversation to be had here. So, Kenny, I do want you to have in the back of your mind, I am going to ask you about your last fight against Jose Aldo and what your mentality was going in. So OAM said, I don't have it anymore. He didn't feel the butterflies in the back. He said he knew it was his last time. Then he also said, in my mind, I'm done. Felt like a normal day, just like he was going into training. The fight itself was tough, but the joy at the end of the fight, he did not feel it this time. He wants to see his family. Also said the last year was hard. His plan was to take a break, but I think when you're in that active competition cycle and you're trying to, repeat the feat, so to speak, your mentality is not to take a break. So he didn't take anything that resembled a vacation. So what a way to finish the career if this is indeed the end for Olivier Aubin-Mercier. But Kenny, it's interesting to think about a guy not having the butterflies in the back, because I have sometimes said that
I wish as a broadcaster, sometimes I'll get him every now and again, and maybe there's some nervous energy, but I do wish that I could bottle those butterflies that I had early in my career and get him back. And it sounds like for OAM, he's going to go out on the ultimate high note here with a world title.
Yeah, sometimes fighters say that as a negotiation tactic, right? And they kind of they play hard to get, in the hopes of a better contract. I don't think that's the case here. I think OAM is pretty genuine in how he is explaining his feelings at the current moment, right? Because it's one thing, if you ask someone at the beginning of a camp, how do you feel? Oh, I feel great. This is awesome. I can't wait to get in there. And sometimes you ask that same question at the end of the camp, like, oh my gosh, I just want to get through fight week. This weight cut's going to suck, yada, yada, yada. He's at the end of an extremely long season. He's at the end of an extremely long series of 2 seasons, right? 8 fights in 2 years, 8 grinding fights is no joke, man. So I think that narrative may change in his head after he has some time away because, when you're training for that long and then you don't do a whole lot and you don't have any preparation in the near future, you can start to get that itch again. I think we'll see OAM at a certain time back in the fold. He certainly has a lot of money now that he could put away. So I don't know. I think he's going to spend a lot of time with his family, with his daughter in particular. And I think at a certain point, just because he's so competitive and because he does like to stay active from an athlete, from a training perspective, we will see him back. But right now, I just don't see it happening in the near future, perhaps not even 2024. If at all, maybe at the end of 2024. But he has had an amazing set of years in the PFL. And I hope we get a chance to see him back at some point, but he definitely deserves to retire and call it a career. He was training way back when I was in the UFC, right? I mean, that's how long he's been around in this sport. He was grinding way back then, and he wasn't even in the UFC organization at the time. So it's been a long time coming, and he's another one of those guys, just one of the good guys in the sport. So to see him attain all this success financially and career-wise, it has been awesome.
Yeah, I remember calling the Ultimate Fighter, I think, Nations Finale 2014 when he made his UFC debut, and tremendous mixed martial arts career. Seems like he would be well invested. I feel like he's a Bitcoin guy. Maybe not. What a huge weekend for Bitcoin, huh? He is a Bitcoin guy as well, right?
Yeah, he is.
I was like, hey, Chrissy, by the way, in case I die on our run yesterday, I said, Kenny and I got paid like this $5,000 sum in Bitcoin way back in the day. It's on some fucking hard drive. There are all these keywords. So if something happens to me, you may need to find it and figure that out. Real quickly before we move on. Your mentality going into the Jose Aldo fight was not at all that was going to be your last competition. You retired in December of 2011. That fight was in October of that year. Presumably, had you won that fight, and by the way, KenFlo was up in that fight at one point in time. I believe I did have you up 2-1, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, you would have had to stare death in the face and defend that title at least once, right? I mean, so your mentality going into that fight was not that you were going to retire thereafter, right?
Accurate. My hope was to continue fighting, to get big fights after that. And, certainly had plans of defending if I won the fight. But even if I lost, when I did lose, my plan was to continue fighting and to have big fights. I got injured training after that Jose Aldo fight. I was lifting weights and my terrible technique, I had my back injured again. And it was only then where I was like, this is a bad one. I can't keep doing this. I'm not going to fight in this very difficult sport in this fashion. And luckily, I had a job over with Fox at the time and, doing commentary with you. So it made it a little easier. It's still not easy, but it made it easier of a transition. And I always said that if my passion ran out, right, as you were alluding to before with OAM, or if my body ran out, that I would stop. The sport's just too damn difficult.
Olivier Aubin-Mercier is 34 years of age. So KenFlo, I think, was 35 when he hung him up, if I'm not mistaken. Does that sound right, KenFlo?
35, 36, something like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, congratulations to OAM. So I would hate to throw you a question that is to suggest, like, what's the other
biggest headline to come out of this PFL pay-per-view, but just knowing that Impa Kasanganay is coming up in 8 minutes. Other than Impa, other than Olivier Aubin-Mercier, I feel like we should spend a minute on Larissa Pacheco in terms of just her overall career, right? Because certainly her opponent was game, but Pacheco went in the hunted and certainly took care of business. Your thoughts on that featherweight title fight?
Yeah, she is just so dang powerful, man. She hits so hard. She's so fast. And really put it on Marina, who showed a toughness that is I don't know, rare, I think, in that division. And she, most people have lost before they even enter the cage against someone like Pacheco, and then even more so quit after they experience the speed and power of Pacheco. That was not the case for Marina Mokhnakina, who got hit with some massive shots, was extremely close to finishing the fight with that knee bar. I mean, that thing was locked on for a while. And I think she injured the knee of Pacheco, but Pacheco is such a savage, such a beast. You could see her hunger during that fight. She was not going to lose that fight. She's not satisfied with just being a champion at 55 and wasn't satisfied by just having $1 million. She was out there to do damage and to win that fight. And even, to this day, when we bring it up to Pacheco, say, hey, how do you see yourself, as far as the best female fighter in the world? How do you compare yourself to Cyborg, Amanda Nunes, Kayla Harrison? And she says, right now, she's like, I'm at their level. I'm not past their level yet. She goes, next year I'll be better. She goes, but I still have work to do. Like, she's still really focused. She's still working very hard, still has that hunger inside her. And that's great to see. And she needed that to get through that knee bar. So, I mean, kudos to Marina, who showed insane heart and determination, but even that was not enough to beat the great Pacheco.
If Larissa Pacheco beats Chris Cyborg and then maybe beats Kayla Harrison again, that might get on Amanda Nunes's radar, if not nerves, right? Like, if you're looking for Amanda Nunes to come back, right? This, I think, is the woman that would bring her back. Like, all right, everybody's talking about Larissa Pacheco now as the greatest of all time, or at least entering her name into the conversation. And you led this horse to water, by the way, for the record. But if she is able to beat Chris Cyborg and then stack a win over Kayla Harrison, people are going to start having that conversation as a 2-division world champion, Larissa Pacheco. So your chief executive suggested that she would fight Chris Cyborg next, and that Kayla Harrison would be one of 2 fights potentially for Chris Cyborg under the PFL banner in 2024. Now, as well as anyone, this is a strike while the iron is hot type sport. Certainly the UFC had a window maybe in which to make George St. Pierre versus Anderson Silva, some other big fights. Most of the big fights the UFC has made, right? But there is inherent risk if you don't put together a fight between Chris Cyborg and Kayla Harrison. I guess I would ask you, if Cyborg loses to Pacheco, is some shine off of a Cyborg Harrison fight because Chris is then coming off a loss to the world champion and thereby the stakes would not be for a belt?
That's a great question. I don't think you lose too much luster there. I also think Pacheco Harrison for the 4th time would be very interesting, instead. But Cyborg is still fighting at a high level. But I do think she's kind of at the end of her career. Certainly, I don't know how much longer she wants to compete. She may be wanting to, move into motherhood and all that stuff. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what the plans are, but I find, just because they're 2 great strikers, I find that Pacheco Cyborg fight in some ways more interesting. But Kayla definitely made her mark. I saw huge improvements in her striking, in my opinion, against Aspen Ladd. She just seemed way more loose, way more comfortable on the feet. She wasn't forcing things. There was no sense of desperation in having to get to the clinch. She was content to kind of let the fight play out organically. And she was, all over Aspen Ladd, who also showed a ton of toughness, I thought. And did a great job scrambling in some of those positions on the ground. Didn't make it easy for Kayla Harrison, but Harrison still the clear winner in that one.
By the way, you do those social media hits for Puncher's Chance Bourbon in collaboration with the PFL. You just taking a sip there? I mean, you're drinking a lot of bourbon. I'm seeing like 6 posts.
Thank you for saying that. Manny, our buddy Manny Rodriguez, making fun of me. Oh yeah. You're why are you taking such wimpy pours? bro, I'm not this big time drinker. First of all,
Right.
it tastes really good. Right. But
Yeah,
I take a few sips like halfway through, dude. I'm buzzing already. So,
well, it's like 94 proof. Your
Yeah.
standard bourbon or whiskey is 80 proof. It's strong.
Right.
You know,
It's definitely
like
strong.
Buck. Strong like Buck. All right, so real quick, we have a few minutes before we get to Impa Kasanganay. Renan Fajeda is your heavyweight winner of $1 million. So we're going to talk to Impa Kasanganay about Francis Ngannou and Nemkov and all that stuff. What is your relative excitement level? And perhaps I shouldn't be asking this of the PFL's lead analyst, but your relative level of excitement for Renan Fajeda in an octagon or in a cage with Francis Ngannou versus Impa Kasanganay based upon his body work in the PFL and what you saw this weekend.
Right. Awesome question. Listen, I think that Fajeda from a heavyweight standpoint, right, is going to be much, much larger than Impa. And I think in Impa's mind, he's got business to do first against Nemkov. So it gives us some time before I think that comes even close to being, coming to fruition. However, Fajeda is one of the few guys I would say on the planet who, from a size standpoint and from an athletic standpoint, can somewhat match the athleticism of the great Francis Ngannou. First of all, 6'8". We saw Tyson Fury, who's a massive man, be able to establish that range against someone like Ngannou. Now, I'm not saying Fajeda can box like Tyson Fury necessarily, but I would definitely argue that he is much more athletic than Tyson Fury. He also, obviously, in a mixed martial arts setting, is going to have way more weapons, right? His legs, his knees, his striking on the feet. He is extremely fast, dude. I mean, this guy could do a backflip on one leg. He's 6'8". He's built like a power forward in the NBA, has the athleticism of a cornerback in the NFL. He really is that special. So there's not a whole lot of guys that can move like him, and it's going to be as strong and fast like him. So I think that from that standpoint alone, it gets very interesting. He has become way more sophisticated with his striking. I still see vulnerabilities with his grappling. I know he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but I think adjusting that game, his grappling game for mixed martial arts, has been a much harder transition for him than it has been for his striking in mixed martial arts. So, Francis, while he can definitely take people down and knock you out with ground and pound, I think that he is really a striker, right? So just from that standpoint, I think it would be fascinating to watch.
And in terms of the upside for Francis Ngannou, you've heard us talk about when Kenny Florian accepted a BJJ Legends match in Brazil, right? He doesn't want to go into that as like an 8-1 favorite. He wants a challenge. And not to suggest that our next guest, Impa Kasanganay, is not an appreciable challenge for Francis Ngannou, because he is. But I do believe that if Francis Ngannou was presented with both of these opponents, he's not going to want to fight a guy who, comes up to his shoulders that he's maybe minus 800 against, right? I don't know that he's going to see the upside in taking on a light heavyweight champion versus fighting somebody like Renan Fajeda. But we just have to see how it plays out. Congratulations to all the winners. Magomed Karamov seems like he's had enough of the tournament format, but a tremendous welterweight who just doesn't get the at least domestic acclaim that he deserves. Congrats to Kayla Harrison, of course, Derek Brunson making good on the PFL debut, Jesus Pinedo, and everybody else. All right, we need to get to our first guest, the newly minted world champ, Impa Kasanganay.
Yeah.
Look at this guy.
How you doing?
With us on the guest line, and we are so thankful that this man is breaking off 10 minutes for us today. This man's the talk of the town, the toast of the mixed martial arts world, and rightfully so. PFL world champion Impa Kasanganay. You're not going to hear me say tournament champion. You are a world mixed martial arts champion. What a road to get here, my brother. We kind of just wanted to have you on to congratulate you. I don't have some great wide-ranging question off the top, my brother. Congratulations on a huge accomplishment about 48 hours ago.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on, guys. It's an honor to talk to both of y'all, and I've seen you both privately, publicly, and it's pretty cool to be here and watching your podcast and all the connections over the years. It's a blessing, so thank you.
So we're talking to you on a Sunday morning here, East Coast time. Where are you? Are you back in South Florida, and what has life been like since you won the world title?
No, I'm actually still in D.C. Life has been great. It's been a blessing getting a lot of love and support, messages, I'm here with my family and and friends. We're going to do a motorcycle ride from Virginia through Virginia to North Carolina, Tennessee. Knoxville, my brother's a basketball coach at the University of Tennessee. We're going to go say hi to him, and then go to Atlanta, Georgia, where Triumph Motorcycle headquarters. And then I'm going to go over to Ireland for the PFL Europe final. So I have some time until I get back to Florida. I'm going to go to Florida for a couple of days to work with some clients, like in between, but that'd be like just like a 24-hour trip. So we're nonstop right now.
Impa, I know it hasn't been a whole lot of time since you won the belt, but is it anything like you envisioned? I know you do a lot of focusing and had hoped to go out there and do exactly what you trained to do. But what does it feel like now that you've accomplished that big goal?
Man, I'm ready to get back to training. That's how it feels. It's like I feel that I'm grateful that we got it. So it's cool because I wanted the first round finish, right? And I believe I could have, but I wasn't finding my shots early enough. And Josh was tough. He took some solid shots and he kept coming to fight. He was staying in there. He wasn't going away. And obviously I asked you like what you think I could do to get better. And I feel like there were some submissions I missed out on. So some definitely some things I can work on. So how it feels like there's so much room to improve. I'm still grateful that we had 25 minutes. I got to go into championship rounds at a professional level for the first time. So that was pretty cool. And man, it was a testimony to all my training partners, coaches, family prayed for me, so it's like, it's cool to be there. So when I reflect on the fight, I'm just grateful. And it does feel like I envisioned it. Like I said, that before the PFL Challenger Series started, I said, challenger to champion. And I really meant it. So it's cool to see that we got that title. And I say, God, I pray for the first round finish. I pray for like an early stoppage because we're here to kill the guy. At the same time, if it's your will that I go 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds, I know we're prepared and we're ready. And we don't just talk to talk. So it was awesome that we got to dominate for the entire fight. And I was at peace in there. So I'm still at peace. I'm not too high. I'm not too low. I believe there's so much I can do to get better. And I'm dialed in because I want to, take Nemkov and Ngannou next. So that's it.
John, he's not lying. Literally right after the fight, I go over, I congratulate him, and the first thing out of his mouth is like, "Hey, what do you think I could do to get better?" Like he is laser focused, man. But I think what was most impressive about that performance, man, is you didn't open your mouth to take a breath once during that 25-minute fight. Like, I haven't seen anything like it. Certainly haven't seen anything like it for any weight class close to 205 pounds. What was your conditioning like? And did you expect to be in that kind of shape for that fight? That was wild, man.
Right, yeah. So I take it back to when I was in North Carolina. When I was Jimbo, then Jonathan Logan. Jonathan Logan, he's a mentor of mine, and he was pushing me to Coach Jimbo would say, you don't open your mouth when you fight, right? Because if your jaw's loose, you can get cracked. Why? And then also, Jonathan Logan, he's like, you're going to be the best conditioned. You're going to be the most calm, most composed person. So he always challenges me to do that. So he would actually tell me when he sees my mouth open in fights. He's like, so you're tired? I'm like, no, I'm not. But he's like, you got to be focused and dialed in. And this whole entire camp, Coach Dieter ran a lot of my conditioning through different things. Dr. Peacock at Kill Cliff, right? And how we push the pace. But the way we trained too with Jones and especially Nick Lentz and in the grappling and the MMA sessions, it was push, and then push again and push again and push again, right? And then we also managed the days when we rested. But it was more so like a focus. Like I knew I was there. I would say I don't care if the fight's 25 minutes or 3 hours. And the thing I like to tell my coaches, like if you're walking down the street and somebody pushes your mom or your sister or your loved one, like you're gonna ask them like how much time you need to condition or how long it's going to take you. When I get into that mode or that zone, it doesn't matter how long it is. You stay focused, you keep your mouth shut, and you breathe through your nose, and you stay focused and dialed in. And we used to do a lot of breath walks and practice like how I would breathe because that's a big part about controlling the action. And if a guy like Josh wanted to break him by pushing the pace, sometimes your conditioning is your weapon as well. So that was the main thing, and I'm glad we did. I didn't really consciously probably even think about keeping my mouth closed, but I was like, man, we're here, felt great, dialed in, and it's an honor. People are noticing that, but I'm happy.
But just one last question for me before I hand you over to John. You didn't have 4 fights. Like 4 fights in 5 months, 4 fights in a year is insane. You had 5 fights since March. How was your body feeling headed into that final?
Heading into the fight, I felt solid. I mean, nothing like the normal nicks and bruises, but I mean, my body's healthy. I say, I mean, if y'all can pitch it to PFL, like I'd like a longer season. It'd be cool to have like 8 fights in the season, which would be pretty cool. Like I'm down to go. If you need an even number, make it 10, right? But I love to fight. It's cool. I can say this is the first fight where I woke up in the morning and was like, oh man, like I was in a fight. It was cool, but it was like it was a good feeling. Other than that, the body's solid. Nothing hurts. Like I'm gonna work out and train this whole motorcycle trip. I'm gonna get back to it. I love training. I'm not really here to take time off. I mean, they probably won't have me spar so much at the gym right now, even though I'd like to. You know, it's just fun to go and get after it. But I also understand they're probably trying to keep my head and my body healthy. But nah, like I'm solid and ready to go.
PFL light heavyweight champion Impa Kasanganay with us here on the Anik Florian podcast. You can find him on Instagram at Impact5, IMPAK5. So as you have ascended now to the top of the sport, and I remember running into you at Dick's Sporting Goods and just being so optimistic about your chances in mixed martial arts, if you could just get a break here or there, and you've made most of your own breaks. But as you have ascended, much has been made of your trials en route to success, whether it's your living situation or sleeping in a car, getting cut from the UFC. Was there any, low point for you that you can pinpoint where, there was some legitimate either self-doubt or mental doubt that you could ever get to this point?
No, I would never say there's mental doubt or self-doubt through this process. It was more just like asking like God, like, what direction do you want me to go? And like, I don't want to like call that doubt. Sometimes I think people mistake doubt for just like a redirection in their calling. So for me, it's like, what do I need to do to get to that level? And what do I need to do in the meantime? It was more like, what was I doing in my personal life? So that the challenging part for me was like, where am I messing up so much that I need to reorganize myself, right? And I thought like, you can go on a personal level. I thought I was going to get married to somebody. That didn't work out really well. So that was like heavy. Then I thought that I was like, I had clients and all my clients were just like something happened in their life where I couldn't like, it was like 2 months of just no sessions. And I was like, what happened? We're all just training well. So I was more so like wondering what was wrong with me that I needed to do better, that I could fix to get better, but not so much as far as fighting. I always thought that fighting would be something I would do for the next 12 to 15 years. So it was just saying it wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. And I actually had a lot of peace, like even in the car, even in the yurt. Like, but I really enjoyed the farm. It was great. My mom didn't like the yurt so much, but I liked the yurt. Yeah. But it's that time period for me was like, God, like where am I messing up? I just couldn't figure it out. And I really kind of came down to my faith. It came down to something where I was just like, I gotta reorganize my faith, focus on being obedient, and things in my life just started to line up again. So that's what it was. It was never a doubt in what I'm called to do, but more so I think I wasn't structured in my brain and my spirit correctly. And once I was like honest with myself in that, I would listen better to my training partners, my coaches, and it just all started connecting. So that became like the base of it all. That could answer the question, right?
Yeah. Well, and even had you lost this fight, I feel like your mental game is so forged that you probably would have built yourself back from that, but you didn't lose this fight. You beat a very credentialed guy who comes from an outstanding MMA team and family in Josh Silveira. And now you have laid the foundation for a fight with Francis Ngannou. Now, whether or not you get that fight is not the conversation for today. But I'd imagine you had to give this Francis Ngannou angle some forethought before you fought this past weekend, or did you just sort of feel the whole world open up as your oyster once you were able to get the belt?
No, I told I think I was talking to Mickey Gauss. I'm gonna call it Francis Ngannou. And they looked at me. He's like, "What?" Yeah, for sure. And then everything, like, I mean it. It's not like people try to test themselves and stuff like that. It's not that. Like, I'm here to claim a victory. I'm not here. Like, I respect the greats, right? And he's a great one. He's one of the greatest. If you can really put his resume down, what he's done, the impact he's made on MMA, right? And when you want to get to that top, you got to take on the kings, right? You're not here. Yeah. Remember in boxing when you had Roberto Duran? Kenny and I were actually talking about that a few months ago about the great boxers of the past and how like things kind of changed up. But then you had Hearns, Duran, you had Hagler, Sugar Ray, right? And everybody would talk about how great they were because it was the best of the best fought each other. I don't want MMA to die. I want the best of the best to fight each other. Once you become a world champion, you solidify yourself as one of the best. Now, I believe there's so much work in order to stamp yourself as the best, right? And Ngannou's done a lot of great work. We're in the same organization, right? I'm not over here calling people from other organizations who are not going to cross the road, like he said, right? I'm going to call out people who are within my land, right? And like, you want to be a king in your land, you got to take over the land. And that's how I look at it. And I see if Francis Ngannou is one of the kings on this territory, and I want that part of the land. I see, Nemkov is, technically in PFL right now, right, with that PFL Bellator merger. So I respect that too, and I don't overlook him. It's just like, those are the guys that I want. And I heard, that Johnny Eblen may be going up. I'd love to see my dog Aaron Jeffrey get that title first and see him, fight at middleweight, become Bellator, middleweight champion. I believe that he will. But to me, it's a respect, right? Like, fighting will die if we just make it about commercialized events that don't hold any weight or value. They'll be fun for a little bit. It'll be like a smoke and mirrors type thing. And then eventually it'll be just, there's no value to it. When the best of the best fight each other, when they are the bloody wars, when there are the fights where like, wow, was that even crazy? Where people can sit back in their seats and nobody even knows how to cheer because of the magnitude of the event. Like when you sit there and you watch the great ones go at it, and then you're like, wow, they really put their whole heart, soul, mind, body, and spirit into that cage, into that canvas. Then that's what the stories are written about. Like if you look at those old boxing clips or like the old Vale Tudo fights, right, you see like hundreds of thousands of people there. They may have made 9 million on the gate or 1 million on the gate back then, which isn't a lot even for them, for that many people, but it built what it is today. And I love to fight. For me, the belt's great. I'm happy. Like I have it here. I have people that I love, but I always say like, who do I come back home to too, right? Who do I see? So for me, it's like when I come back home and my parents said, wow, you went to war with Francis Ngannou and you took him out. You went to war with Nemkov and you took him out. It's not a slight to those guys at all. I'm like, I say it's not a slight to Josh Silveira. I think he's still an excellent fighter. It doesn't take away from him. It would take away if I like fought a lesser version of Josh, but I believe he came to fight. It's like, we dominated that day. You guys know me. Like I fought and I fell in front of the whole world, and we're here as champions today. So that's why I want a guy like Francis, because I really respect him. I met him when I was in another organization, and now I was in the UFC and we're at the PI. And now like I'm here and he's part of PFL. I love being an ambassador with him in PFL Africa, and I think the best way to honor the nation, honor the continent, honor all that my parents have done, all that Francis has done, is to take the fight to Kinshasa or Cameroon where he is, right? And make it the Rumble in the Jungle again. Make it the great one. Bring, Ali Walsh out there. Let him talk about his family's legacy. Let's take the same tour that Muhammad Ali. Let's go run the same roads. Let's go do that. And then like talk about greatness. You want to be great, you got to take the risk. And those are the people that I really, really want to take out.
Cut the tape right there. What else needs to be said? Tremendous wisdom, all of that from Impa Kasanganay. I'm going to rewind that and actually listen back. I don't normally listen back to the show, but I want to hear that again. So real quickly, before we let you fly, what is the timeline, right? I know you were sort of politicking KenFlo to try to mess with the format. I have no pull when it comes to the PFL, but what can you tell fans who would like to see you back in there against Francis Ngannou or anybody else?
Let's do it February. Right? Whatever the main card is, or set off the season right. Like, I'll go claim that victory and I'll be ready to go right again in April if the season starts again. I don't know how the format's going to switch up, if they're going to do unifications and you got to wait, or if you do unifications, you go right into the season. But I'm here to fight and I don't want to sit out. So I'll do 6 fights next year. And if that gets me a 5th fight next year, you say fight Francis, then you go into the season great, or fight Nemkov and you go into the season. Like, give me 6 fights, give me 7. So I'm ready. I'm dialed in, and we'll be, when my name is called, trust me, be the best one yet.
PFL's got a promoter's dream as far as I'm concerned, right? Just in terms of putting all those words into action. We're so happy for you, brother. Congratulations, Impa Kasanganay, world mixed martial arts champion, PFL light heavyweight champion. And by the way, those who think he's up against it when it comes to the size against Francis Ngannou, like, I don't know what you would weigh in at, but I do think Impa's hands are bigger. Check the record. I think your hands are bigger than Francis's.
Hey. There we go. Check it out. I like that. Appreciate you, John. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Hey, enjoy the rest of your recreational time. We'll see you down here in South Florida soon, brother.
Thank you much. I'll see you guys soon. God bless. Thanks for having me on. It's an honor, man.
Our pleasure, man. There he is. Congratulations, Impa Kasanganay, PFL light heavyweight champion, joining us today here on the Anik and Florian podcast. What a tremendous individual. What a tremendous performance. And you guys have obviously gotten close, Kenny, along the way. He was at your house, I believe, watching a UFC pay-per-view at some point along this crazy busy year that it has been for him. And just so happy for the guy. Like, so much of of the joy for me in this job is seeing that, right? The dude go from essentially nothing to not everything. The government takes a lot of taxes, but from going from nothing to having financial freedom and being a world champion, pretty cool.
No question about it, man. And, when you meet him, and I know you felt the same thing, it's just, you like the guy. I mean, how can you not? He's a complete gentleman. He's a total class act. Very sincere. He looks everybody in the eye. He shakes everybody's hands in the room, no matter who you are, whether you're important or not. And when you watch him fight and you see him succeed like that, I don't know. There was only one fight that I got emotional watching, and it was Impa's fight, and it's not like I've known him many, many years, but he just has that ability. And I think he just has also the ability beyond fighting to bring people into his world and to get you to cheer for him. And I think that's a special quality that not everybody has. So to see the story of how he was on the wrong end of that knockout to where he is now and how he's rewriting that narrative is not an easy thing to do. And he's just doing everything right. And, he was living in his car at a certain point. He was living in a yurt and all these. And it's not like he, didn't have any money or didn't have any other options. This was him with a singular focus of saying, no, I'm choosing this samurai lifestyle so I can get to where I want to go in my life. Everything else doesn't matter. I want to focus on this and this alone. And he did it. All the sacrifices have paid off. And it's just amazing to watch.
He was so focused and so present with respect to Team Silvera. It almost seemed like an eventuality that this guy was going to get his hand raised. Congratulations to good dudes all, Nick Lentz, Greg Jones. Can imagine those suffocating training rooms with Nick Lentz, my goodness, at Killcliff FC. But a huge win for Impa Kasanganay. We appreciate him joining us today, and he wants to be active, right? And if you don't know real quickly what Kenny referenced right there, Impa Kasanganay was on the wrong end of what many would argue as the most spectacular knockout in UFC history during the COVID climate at the UFC Apex against New Mansa Joaquin Buckley. And just tremendous to see where he is right now. Congratulations to Impa Kasanganay, increasingly gaining financial freedom with every passing day. One guy, I don't know if this guy has financial freedom, but he is the star of the show. Let's get to the Ray Longo Minute.
It's now time for the Ray Longo Minute.
I want you to punch a hole in his fucking chest. That's what I want.
The Ray Longo Minute.
Starring Ray Longo.
The Jon Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
Good Sunday morning, Raymond Peter Longo. You look pretty good, Ray.
Yeah, how we doing? Yeah, no, I was a little under the weather the last couple of days.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I was actually in New York City for Thanksgiving and then in White Plains.
Wow. You were right there. Right there.
So right there. Not really right there.
This close. You're right there. White Plains is right there.
So can you say hello to my twin brother, Jason Anik, joining us in studio today, Ray?
Of course. Jason, my favorite. My favorite twin. Oh, man. First off, Jason. Is Jason there? I can't see anybody. Is he here?
Jason. Yeah, he's in a yellow T-shirt.
You got like a tiny screen over there. First, Jason, let me tell you something. I'm blown away and super happy for your success. I cannot believe this. You're announcing now. You're a major player in this space. Really, just congratulate. No, really, I really mean that. Congratulations. Looks like you're having a great time, and it's not easy.
He's an addict. Come on.
It's not. It means a lot, Ray. Coming out of those lips.
No, 100%. This is great, good stuff, man.
Getting there slowly but surely, but that's very kind of you to say. Yeah. So, well, it's great to see you. So you're a little bit under the weather.
I feel better.
A little disheveled this morning, Ray.
I'll get in a haircut Monday, so everything will be taken care of. Thank you.
So, how was your weekend? Did you ingest any of that PFL pay-per-view starring Kenny Florian or no?
Yeah, yes, I did. Super happy for Derek Brunson getting a win too.
Yeah,
super happy. I think he's a nice guy. Man, you could see just, you get that monkey off your back. I thought it was a good performance against a tough guy, and that's good for him, man. Good, really good for him. Yeah, so I saw that. I saw the Kayla Harrison fight. It was great.
So since you brought up Derek Brunson, I want to ask both of you guys about this. I remember Kenny telling me at times, he would do this like mental thing, even if he wasn't in great cardiovascular shape, where he would just go out to the street in Massachusetts and run a 6-minute mile and then just flip everybody across Dover, the fucking double bird, right? But I run regularly. And so when I hear Derek Brunson talk about the road work leading up to this fight as like essentially the key to victory, right? That he's running 10 miles and 15 miles. Ray, how much of your, like you are known as a coach who coaches cardio and conditions athletes, like how much of your guys do like a lot of long road work?
Man, I'm going to say, let me preface it by first, I do believe that road work cardio is still king for I think road work is essential like that. But I'm going to say we've really gone more.
Little Longo blackout on a Sunday morning, huh?
And he's gone. There he's back.
Let me just make sure that. But no, so we use the VersaClimber more than anything because there's less impact on the joints. And
That's
so with the road work, you got to find just enough, but not too much to where you're not like injuring yourself. So I would say 10 miles is definitely too much. If you could do like 3 miles at a good clip, I think you're in good shape. But it's still, I still think the king of cardio is road work, but that VersaClimber, Kenny, is no joke if you do it right. So between all the other stuff you have, there's a million ways to get cardio. But I'll tell you one thing, you could run all you want. If your nervous system isn't in place, it just doesn't matter. So I think a lot of these guys think that I'm going to road work. Now I could do it better, but they're having anxiety during the fight. It doesn't matter. It's just going to cut that road work to shit, like right away. So you have to look at how comfortable you are with fighting. And I think that'll help you that'll help you more than the road work. Because I've seen guys put the road work in, put the cardio in, but then I'm going to say like they have kind of panic attacks during the fight. Just then it's not going to matter to me. I mean, that's my observation over the years. So if you're comfortable with fighting, you might not need anything. Like again, if I see a guy and he can't get through sparring, then we got to hit the cardio. If a guy can get through the sparring and he's perfect, he's very comfortable. You can get away with minimal road work, but so everybody's different. It's an individual thing, but definitely will never hurt you unless you're doing too much of it. Then you're going to leave the fight on the track, and that's not good either.
Yeah, I think Ray nailed it. I think the VersaClimber, my old sponsor from way back in the day, what was an awesome way of getting in shape for mixed martial arts in particular, because there is some resistance as well in your legs, your arms, which is similar to kind of a grappling setting. You could do it with the Airdyne. You could do it with the ladder. You could do it with road work. I think what it does more than anything else, and I think Ray is spot on with this, is that it allows you to get comfortable with that uncomfortable. At a certain point, if you're pushing yourself when you're running, you're going to get to that point where you're like, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. Or this is boring. I want to check out. Or I'm going to walk. Or let me slow my pace down. You have to be able to push yourself through that process and push yourself through those mental roadblocks, because that's inevitably what you're going to feel during a fight. And there is no escaping that. You can't be like, hey, quick timeout here, ref. You have to be able to push through when you don't want to. And I think that's the value, not only of getting in like good physical condition, but the value more than anything else, and I think this is what Ray's alluding to, is that mental toughness of not checking out, not getting overwhelmed by, maybe I'm going to get tired, or I am tired. Now what the heck do I do? Or this is a really big event. Like it teaches you to control those emotions, to control your breathing, which is huge. I mean, we saw it in Impa's fight. Like, and I'm always so fascinated by this.
Great fight.
Do I control my breathing while I'm in there, or do I have to like reset it and like let the training that I put into it take over? I think it kind of happens back and forth, but I do think that if you can master your breath, that takes care of a lot of your conditioning and your ability to push yourself. Like breathing is huge, and so many of us are not breathing properly. That's one of the reasons I thought that, my back wasn't doing great, so I tend, because of all the issues that I've had with my nose, of breathing through my mouth. You got to learn and know how to breathe through your nose. It calms down your nervous system. It allows you to be more efficient with your body. So, I think that's huge, John.
There are so many talking points here. One thing you should try if you are a runner, try running for a couple minutes and just breathing exclusively out of your nose. It's not all that easy. I've been trying to work with it of late. And I'm also going on Brandon Harris's Higher Human podcast this week. He's big into the breathing. He's the strength and conditioning mind and coach for our UFC bantamweight champion, Sugar Sean O'Malley. So, but yeah, I mean, even we've talked about for me as an announcer, not using my diaphragm properly. My twin brother here, obviously in musical theater. By the way, in terms of Jay being your favorite, since Longo just cut out again, Kenny. So Mark Delagrati comes up to me at our last UFC live event, back-to-back shows in which Delagrati's getting a mention, by the way. So he's like, hey, brother, like with all due respect, like I still look forward to seeing you, but like, where's your brother? And I've been dealing with this since high school. So I have no sensitivity to people liking you more or gravitating to you more or calling you the nicer twin or good Anik versus bad Anik, right? Like I'm so numb to do that at this point in time. But generally speaking, when it comes to our UFC crew and fighters, shout out to Chris Curtis.
Can anybody hear me?
Coming on here. Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us, Ray? It's episode 451, Ray. How's your connection? JonAnik.com says evil twin. Yes. So I'm the evil twin. I always have been, even though I think, Jay, I'm a little bit misunderstood. But yeah, I mean, you're Mr. Congeniality, right? You go in with your fucking bun and your fucking ponytail. Hey, everybody. Jason. So my thing is, the content today on this podcast has been great, but I came on here to talk shit. Like, I came on here to run my fucking mouth. Excuse my language. Like, when John talks shit to Ray, like, that's what I'm here for, to tell John to shut the fuck up. Your mic's been hot the whole time. I know. But you guys have some good stuff today. I'm not going to lie. As usual. But I'm here to talk shit. But I've always been a little nicer than you. That's just it. Nothing more than that.
John with the killer Delagrati impersonation, by the way.
Cody.
Thanks, buddy. Cody's going to lose his mind.
Hey, brother. I like
everybody
brother,
thinks
brother.
that I go 0 to 60 when it comes to the technical stuff, but I don't know exactly where Ray Longo is getting, but it is amazing. Any of you who have ever been on a Versa climber, they were on the back of KenFlo shorts in like 2008. And this machine, Kenny, has really withstood the test of time. Like I train now at the Institute of Human Performance with Rio and JC Santana, as you well know. And my first time going in there, they put me on the Versa climber, right?
Gosh.
They didn't put me back on that thing for a year.
You want to cry on that thing, right? You're like, this is not fun. I'm just literally suffering on this thing. It's horrible, dude. I literally, the first time I got on that thing, I'm not sure I made it very long. Like it's horrible. And I had to learn to love that thing.
Yeah. By the way, how about Impa Kasanganay just dropping loosely, casually that his brother coaches basketball at the University of Tennessee? I had absolutely no idea on that. All right, we're going to effort Ray Longo one final time here, but I did want to ask Ray about the PFL Bellator acquisition. But if we cannot get Ray Longo, then we'll do a little more headlines on the PFL pay-per-view, and then we will move along to UFC Fight Night, Dariush versus Sarukyan. Ray.
Oh man, sorry about that. But let me finish. Kenny was really, I mean, that's an important thing with the cardio thing, to be honest with you. But that's why, I hope you could splice all of this up. But that's why, Kenny, I like going to the hills too, because I think you get a lot of bang for your buck in 20 or 25 minutes. So you don't have to be out there for an hour. You know what I mean? And I think, and honestly, you have to experiment. Some guys are going to be more acclimated to that. Some guys aren't. But you do have to bring them to that threshold where, again, it is about mental toughness. Who the hell wants to run the hills? Nobody. I say Versa climb it to somebody. Oh no, my knees hurt.
Yeah. Well, and everyone's different too. Like everyone's like for a guy like Brunson, who's so fast and explosive, I think maybe doing a longer session would benefit him more. What was interesting about someone like a Floyd Mayweather back in the day was he used to get tired. Like he was so fast and explosive, and what his uncle and his dad did with him, instead of doing 3-minute rounds, they would do like 10-minute rounds. So he would have to learn how to be efficient and pace himself throughout each round, because he did have that propensity for being like really fast and being that fast starter. So it allows you to kind of calm down. So maybe for someone like Brunson, I think those long runs probably help him,
Yeah. Hey, listen, and Kenny, at the end of the day, and this is really important to everybody, if Derek Brunson believes it helped him,
right?
It fucking helped
exactly.
Him. It doesn't matter. Trust me when I tell you, it doesn't matter. If he believes it helped him, that's the most important part, because I've seen guys resist doing it and it doesn't help them because they won't even let it help them. So that's a really good point. So I'm happy for him, but I'm glad he got everything squared away. But and Kenny, you could you could put new guys in and around. You could have 20-second breaks in between. A million things you could do. Normally I make everybody do a 10-minute round, take a minute break, and then do 5 minutes. You know what I mean? So they know they don't even need that break the first time going around. So
yes,
I mean, you play around with things. You have to know who you're dealing with and see what they're receptive to.
If I was your daughter, Ray, and I'm really sorry to do this, but if I was your daughter and I came downstairs and you had your hair like headphones over your ears, like I'd be like, Dad, can you go to the fucking barber? Like,
they're not
like
gonna
what
say
are we
that,
doing, man? I mean, you look like.
Why does it look that bad?
Eating poisonous plants, man.
Jeez, I feel bad. I was out last night. I hope I look better than this.
You were sick. I thought you were sick. You went out last night?
Well, I went out I actually, I went out to like a brunch or a dinner. I had one of the first kickboxing champs I ever had. I haven't seen him in like 30 years. We got together, so it was pretty cool. Shout out to Mike Ryan. Shout out to Mike Ryan. What was that?
You said it was
brunch. I don't know. It was 4:00. What do you consider that? Lunch?
Yeah, sure.
4:30, 4. Yeah, it's a Brenner, whatever it is. I'm embracing my hair. Leave me alone. While I still have it, I want to enjoy it.
I understand.
I don't care where it goes. Just stay on my head.
Well, part of the reason I brought Jay in studio today is that he did commentate Anthony Pettis Fighting Championship the other day in Indiana, and a lot of people think that I went and did this hair transplant treatment that everybody's doing in Turkey.
That's awesome.
Because they see him in the octagon,
That's
more
awesome.
on Slate later in the program.
Killer job.
Yeah.
But all right, Ray, I did have a few other things I wanted to ask you about. So this merger between the PFL and Bellator, does this move your needle at all? What does this mean for you and your fighters? Do you think it's a good thing for mixed martial arts?
I think it's my initial thing is I think it's a good thing for martial arts. I like the way they're handling it. If they're going to have champion against champion, I think that moves the needle. I think people like to see that, and maybe it could create something further down the line with the UFC. Who the hell knows? But it looks like they're in the right direction. I love the champion against champion thing. So,
yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, I think it moves the needle a little bit. Nothing crazy, but I like it. Look, I enjoyed the show the other night, so that's all that matters to me.
Dude, Kenny Florian on a hot mic. It's interesting how we can talk about running for 15 minutes on the show today and not mention this dude played NCAA Division I soccer at midfield, which essentially
a lot of running.
Country team, right? Like all he does is run. Like how often was the ball on your fucking foot?
Yeah, Kenny, didn't I kind of give you like instant cardio though for you when you transitioned? Yeah. I mean, you already had a great base.
I mean, before you even start practice, it was like a 2-mile run to warm up, So we were just running all the damn time, man. It was a lot of work. Yeah.
The other day, Sarah comes in no, it wasn't Sarah. It was actually Iaquinta. He's like, he was watching, we do a couple of things. He's like, do you still do that? And I go, Al, we don't do anything like we used to do. It's like the new guys, it's like almost like social media. It's in and out. It's like TikTok. You just go. It's fucking crazy to me. But he was going, do you do this? Do you do that? I go, Al, 0. I'll take whatever I can get at this point. But that's the game of being a coach today, I guess.
Well, Cody told me you had a hard out today after 15 minutes.
Yes.
So we're going to let you fly, brother, but we appreciate a few minutes on this great Sunday. We're back to Monday next week, a little more normalcy in your life. How's your hip?
Hip is great.
Good.
Hip is great, man. We're doing great. Going to the gym now.
Good.
Got a pretty busy day, and I'll get a good workout today. So hopefully I'll be happy by 7 o'clock.
Let's start the show. Ray Longo. See you,
my
doctor.
Man.
We'll talk to you next week, all right?
All right. And I'll have a brand new haircut for you, John. Seriously. Or I'll wear a hat. One or the other. All right, guys. Take it easy.
There he is. Ray Longo Minute every week here on the Anik and Florian podcast. He texted me. He was like, hey, you want me to break down the PFL? Maybe you can pay for the pay-per-view, right? You want me to fucking break it down. Let me buy the groceries. What was that line from The Jerk, right? I think Steve Martin's getting advice as he is leaving his longtime family. See a doctor and get rid of it. All right. We're going to spin this thing forward if we could. UFC Fight Night, Dariush versus Tsarukyan. Moody Center, Austin, Texas, coming up Saturday night on ESPN+. So with that, we are going to get to some predictions in our main event challenge.
It's the main event challenge. Anik.
The time is most definitely now.
Florian.
I finish fights. I'm going to do everything possible to win.
The main event challenge. The Jon, Anik, and Kenny Florian podcast.
You know what it is.
I'm in the green. I'm in the green, boys.
Yeah.
Brian Petrie at Brian Petrie MMA on social media. Great to see you, brother. How's your Sunday?
It's better now that I got two Aniks on my screen in that fire new studio.
Thank God, baby. What's up, kid?
Boys? It's good. The week off killed me. I mean, Kenny killed on the PFL. I watched PFL Friday night, some boxing last night, but I'm glad to be back on the horse, boy. 3 more events. The end of the year. That's crazy.
Absolutely crazy. Did you have any action on that boxing match Saturday night?
I did not. No, I like Benavidez to win. David Benavidez. I'm a fan of his. He's got just raw talent, raw power. No action. Had some action on PFL. Went over. Thanks, KenFlo.
Oh no.
Yeah, I went all dogs and got absolutely
chalky evening, Bri.
Huh?
It was a chalky evening, huh?
It was. Yeah, I went all dogs.
All right. So before we get into our predictions, I do have a pronunciation of the week, and this is really a public service announcement, Brian, more than anything else. But Beneil Dariush is fighting in a main event this weekend. I'm just looking for the name of the guy he's fighting. That's really all we need today.
Sure. So this name has tripped me up several times in my short podcasting career. It's Arman Tsarukyan is what I'm going to go with.
Not bad.
All right.
And you actually look like you might be due for a haircut as well. You don't look like Longo, but you look like you're ready.
I swear to you, when you were roasting Ray, I was trying to find a hat because I'm like, this hair needs to be cut. The wife is still on the mend, so she hasn't been able to cut the hair in a little bit. But before I hopped on there, I just showered. She's like, "You throwing on a hat?" I was like, "No, why?" Then you roasted Ray. I'm like, I gotta find a hat. Couldn't find one for
Why do you think I wear a hat like 90% of the time?
Yeah, John.
Full disclosure, it's not a comedy bit. I've always had a hair thing. I've been shaving my head since I was 14 years old, despite having a full head of hair. And if you're looking for proof, right, my twin brother's right here. I made a mop and glow joke when I gave the high school graduation speech in 1997 because I was bicking my head essentially since I was born. So, so for Arman Tsarukyan, we're going 3 syllables. And we're going to play you the file here, folks. But I just think oftentimes people want to go, Armenian here, Tsarukyan or whatever it is. And let's hear what Arman has to say as to his surname, Cody, if we could.
Arman Tsarukyan. Arman Tsarukyan. Arman Tsarukyan.
KenFlo, what do you got? Tsarukyan?
Tsarukyan.
All right. Good enough. All right. I'm not going to update the standings right now because I left it downstairs, but you guys had a pretty good week. KenFlo, I just don't know. Cody tried to change the punishment, right? So not as though Kenny's waving the white flag, but I don't know. You're going to have to get real creative if you're going to beat Brian Petrie. And I think Cody now doesn't want to break a bottle over his head. He wants to dye his hair blonde or something instead. Kenny, wouldn't you rather put a pebble in a beer bottle and soften it up and break it over your head and deal with maybe a stitch or two at worst than to color? You're not going to dye your hair blonde, are you?
I might. That's not a terrible idea. I may go blonde flow. Blonde KenFlo.
I love it.
All right. Brian, would you be okay with that?
Whatever they want to do. I tell you what, I don't drink, so I don't have beer in the house. But I had some buddies over the past weekend, and I just was staring at beer bottles, like, man, this could be it. This could be me. Little Vietnam flashbacks.
Who came up with this punishment? It originated organically here on the Anik Florian podcast. Who? It's weak as fuck. Breaking a bottle over your head. Do you have a better idea with my idea?
Jay, what do you think?
What do you, I mean, like Kenny getting a stitch or two in his head? I will say Cody Merrill look a little bit like Dan Hooker when he dyes that hair blonde. No? They were lettuce up top. Anyway,
Yeah,
whatever.
I'll be honest. I need every brain cell I can get, guys. I mean, the breaking the bottle over the head. I mean, I don't know.
For the record, Kenny, it's not bad.
Yeah,
it's not that bad, Kenny.
Yeah, no. If it were me, I would just have a couple of Irish whiskeys, and we obviously do it live on the show. But thank you. No, but you're a little bit of a clown. Like, you want to break a bottle over your head. Maybe John should just break a fucking bottle over his head, no matter who wins, right? You're not
with you, Johnny. I'll do it. I don't care. Let's do it together.
Peach, are you still training to box professionally or what?
I mean, I've gained 11 pounds since I made that announcement, but once life slows down, we're going to start. It's going to be MMA, though. It'll be MMA, not boxing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, as you would. Right. That's at Anik Florian Pod. If anyone has punishment suggestions.
Yeah, that's good.
Me and Petrie on one side, Kenny and Cody on the other. Either way, at the end of this year, somebody's doing something. And if you don't come up with a better idea, then we're breaking bottles over each other's heads.
Better ideas.
Let's get into UFC Fight Night. Dariush versus Tsarukyan. All of these odds courtesy of DraftKings Sportsbook. I will update the standings later in the week. I apologize for my lack of due diligence there. Let us get to our two prelim selections, fellas. First up, Raging Panda, Julia Avila, minus 162. Miesha Tate, plus 136. So Avila, 3-1 of the UFC, coming off a submission win of Yulia Stoliarenko. That was 2.5 years ago, though. June 26th of 2021. So knee injury took her out of the scheduled fight against Raquel Pennington. That was to be December 2021. Now she returns here. Bryce, she does so as a betting favorite against the former world champion, Miesha Tate. Your thoughts?
So I know the MMA awards are approaching. We are nominated. Johnny, hopefully they have a director of the year, because the camera switching you're doing, bro, is flawless.
You like that, huh?
So I need my guy to get that credit.
You like that Jay single shot, Bryce?
So that Jay single shot. There it is. Right, I love it. This fight to me is kind of weird because Miesha Tate took 5 years off, retired, said I'm done, came back, won a fight, and then has fought two really good, tough competitions, and she looked pretty okay. The wrestling just isn't there anymore. The volume's there. She's trying, her cardio's on point. She was at 125 for a little bit. And then you got Avila, who just doesn't fight. Like, her wins in the UFC just do not hold up well. I don't know if the women are even in the UFC, and her one loss in the UFC is to Cesar Eubanks. And, that's, a lot of people fight Sarge, and it can go either way. You're looking at the underdog here, Miesha Tate. I don't like what I see. I feel like, I don't know if she's involved enough for the game. I mean, she's only 37, but she's been around forever. She's an OG. She's a Hall of Famer. Is she improving? I like her back at 135 as opposed to 125. I'm going to take her on sheer volume. We're looking at a greasy decision here. That's how I'm going to play it. I think we're going to get Miesha Tate by some kind of decision here. So give me Miesha Tate. Give me the dog shot, man.
KenFlo, your thoughts? Julia Avila favored here against Miesha Tate.
Yeah, Miesha doesn't have the best record. You look at her last 5 fights, hasn't gone well, but it definitely has been all high level fighters. And I agree with Brian. I think that her wrestling, which at one point was the best part of her game, hasn't looked very sharp recently, and sometimes she leads the way with her toughness, which I don't think is the best thing to do at this stage of her career, and especially against someone who is very game like Avila. And I don't know, I think Avila, she's still new in the game, but I think she's very tough. I don't think she's going to be easy to take down. I think that's Miesha's best path to victory, is putting Avila on her back. Even then, it's not going to be easy. But Avila's got some good takedowns herself. She knows how to cage wrestle. She's very aggressive on the feet, I think more so than Miesha. Doesn't necessarily have crazy power, but she is very aggressive, doesn't really tire. So I like the favorite here. It'd be nice to see Miesha get the win here, but I see Avila getting it done.
All right, next fight for us at lightweight, Joaquim Silva, minus 310. Clay the Carpenter Guida is plus 250. So Silva's had a hard time, Brian, at least of late, getting momentum in the UFC. He's 5-4 in the octagon overall, started guns blazing, but he's been knocked out in 3 of his last 4. Last man to get him, of course, this weekend's headliner, Arman Tsarukyan. Your thoughts on him here against the now 35-time UFC veteran, Clay the Carpenter Guida?
It's crazy. Clay's still going. I mean, this guy's 41 years old and cardio still on point. He's never going to be the biggest finisher in the world, but he's out there working. I've seen a little improvements in him. You know, Kenny really woke him up when knocking the shit out of him back in the day. So, Johnny didn't say it. I had to say it, Kenny. No, it's interesting, this fight, because Silva's, I mean, the guy hasn't walked past the gym and said no. The guy lives in the gym. He's ripped as shit, right? He's got big power, and takedown defense isn't great, but he has a problem with big power punchers. He can't really take a shot. Clay's not really that. Clay's got a good overhand right, but other than that, it's just kind of basic boxing for Clay. And Clay's style doesn't really transition to winning fights in now modern day MMA. Control isn't as a big factor as damage is. Clay doesn't do a ton of damage when he gets the fight to the ground. He thought he won the Bobby Green fight, which I thought he lost. That was kind of a wake up call for him. I like Clay though. He's sitting there. He's being active. He's grappling Chase super. But I think Silva, even though his takedown offense is like 38%, it's god awful. He can get up and he can punish you and he can hit you hard. And I like that here. I think he's gonna finish Clay Guida with something hot, a nice little clean shot here, something explosive. I'm playing Silva and I'm playing by KO. Don't love the number. I mean, I can see people loving Clay at plus 250 being the OG, but give me Silva, give me by KO.
So I have Clay Guida stuff prepared, Bri.
I know. I'm sorry. I
so the reason we're gonna get to it. No, it's fine. Yeah. So we can both do it. Clay doesn't good. I like his parents. It's fine.
Yeah.
So we are picking this fight because there are going to be fewer and fewer instances in which we have somebody who Kenny fought who is still competing in the UFC. Kenny, can you lean to your right or left just for a second, please?
There it is.
All right. So that's Kenny just absolutely bludgeoning Clay Guida and ruining like the next month for the whole Guida family. So Clay Guida right now is 18-17 in the UFC. His 10th UFC fight was December 12th, 2009, UFC 207, nearly 14 years ago today. I was watching live at home, UFC 207, Memphis, Tennessee. 107, Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah. UFC 107, Memphis, Tennessee. So bad night on which to be fighting Kenny Florian, right? So KenFlo had fought BJ Penn for the lightweight title in August of that year. He lost by rear naked choke. So 4 months later, you had a very pissed off Massachusetts native, Kenny Florian here. And man, did you take it out on Clay Guida in Memphis, Tennessee. He's plus 250 this weekend, KenFlo. You like him against Neto, BJJ, or what?
I say this every time. It's amazing that he is still fighting and fighting a lot of tough guys, man. That kind of long-term durability is so rare in this sport. So kudos to Clay, one of the nicest dudes. And yeah, his family is so nice. His mom, I remember before I fought him, his mom came over to me. It was like kind of squeezed my cheek. She's like, oh, I just love you so much. You look like one of my sons. And I'm like, I'm fighting your son. Do not soften me up right now. Anyways, great family. But yeah, this is a tough
imagine
one.
KenFlo and Mrs. Guida comes up like,
yeah, she like give me a hug and a kiss. I'm like, oh gosh, this is
Midwest
not
nice, man.
Yeah, stop. But yeah, this is a tough fight for Clay, man. I think that it's going to be difficult for Clay to be successful with a lot of his takedowns, but I think his best bet is doing it up against the cage. And I agree. I think I agree with Brian. I think that that's where we've seen Joaquim vulnerable is with big strikers, guys that can really hurt him. And Clay he's never really had that power. He's unorthodox, and I think there'll be some time for Silva to kind of adjust to that, awkward movement and things like that. But I think once he gets a beat on it, I think he should be fine. I don't see a huge threat from Clay here. I think there's some decent value. Clay's best bet is trying to win a decision here and edge him out with some takedowns, maybe late in the round and keeping it close on the feet. But Silva does hit hard. He is dangerous. He still has knockout power. And I think his jiu-jitsu and anti-grappling will be good enough to kind of neuter Clay Guida just a bit. So give me Silva here.
Didn't want to say Spay Clay. You went with neuter.
Yeah, I didn't want to use that.
All right, 5 main card picks for you today, ladies and gentlemen. First up at middleweight, Punahele Soriano, minus 270. Jay, you love Punahele.
I love me some Puna.
Yeah, that's why we're picking the fight. Yeah.
Good.
All right, Punahele Soriano, minus 270. Dustin Stoltzfus, plus 220. So Soriano, Bryce, stopped by Roman Kopylov in his lone appearance of the year. That was the first show of the year for the UFC, January 14th. So nearly a year ago now. Stoltzfus hasn't gotten untracked in the UFC, right? 1-4 in the UFC, a guy the odds makers suggest Puna should beat this weekend. He hasn't fought in more than a year. Brian Petrie, who you going with? Stoltzfus, the underdog, or Punahele Soriano, the favorite?
I hate this line. I think the line is way too high. Listen, Puna's back's the size of my fucking house. The guy's built. The guy can crack. He was in mud against Kopylov. Kopylov is a fantastic striker. He came out, long range weapons. Puna was stuck in mud, right? You know, he's got T-Rex arms. He's got to close the distance. He does have some good anti-wrestling. He has a wrestling background. We haven't really seen it yet. Stoltzfus is a guy who is confusing, right? Because you look at his record, he's got to win over Joe Pyfer, which, you know, he slammed Joe Pyfer, broke his arm, but that's a win. And then his UFC career has just been kind of awkward. He's been hard to really put away. GM3 got him, and then Abus Magomedov got him, but he's kind of an awkward dude to fight. So if you're looking at plus 220, that's an interesting number against Puna, who maybe be riding low on confidence. From my understanding, though, people love Puna in Vegas. He seems like a guy that is a training room warrior that might just not show up on fight night, jitters for whatever reason. There's a ton of guys out there. Joe Riggs was a perfect example. Apparently in the room, he was untouchable, but when you get in front of the bright lights, it doesn't really add up. And I've heard great things about Puna. I like his power here. I think he's going to come out. I think his back's against the wall, and that's a big fucking back to be against the wall. Give me Puna. I like him by finish as well. I think he can clip Stoltzfus and get him out of there.
Kenny, what do you have? Punahele Soriano minus 270 on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. The comeback on Dustin Stoltzfus plus 220.
Yeah, this is maybe the trickiest one for me, to be honest, just because, you know, there's been a lot of inconsistency with Soriano and how he performs. I think that he's a good finisher, though. He's got some good knockout power, very powerful dude. Probably because of that massive back there, BP. But, you know, Stoltzfus, I don't think he's out of this fight. I think he's got a good chance of pulling it off, most likely by decision. He is durable. And the odds are just kind of funny in this one. But, yeah, I'm going to go with Soriano here. I could definitely see him maybe getting the finish. Just needs to be less reckless, needs to be more calculated in his approach.
All right, next up, huge fight in the UFC's welterweight division. Sean Brady minus 130, Kelvin Gastelum plus 110. So Gastelum back at welterweight, Bri, if my research is accurate. Back at welterweight for the first time since UFC 200. Went over Johnny Hendricks. That was July of 2016. Hendricks actually missed weight that night. Now he faces Sean Brady. Brady hasn't fought since his first pro loss to Bilal Remembered the Name Muhammad a year ago. Your thoughts on a pretty evenly matched fight, at least on paper here, Brian Petrie? You going Brady or Gastelum?
So I love this fight. I love it. Sean Brady was a guy that was on my radar because before he was in the UFC and before Chris Curtis was in the UFC, they were talking shit online, ready to fight each other. Never happened. Sean Brady gets above his bridges. Is that a saying? It's going to be a saying from now. You know, he's saying for his. There it is. Yeah, something like that. He said he could beat Bilal 9 out of 10 times. I mean, I don't know what fight he watched, and maybe he had an off night. That's a crazy statement to say. He doesn't fight nearly as often as I think a top contender should. Injuries and whatnot, that's fine. His big win against Michael Chiesa, he landed 18 strikes and basically just controlled with grappling. Not a really great, dominant, this guy's world-class performance. And he gets Kelvin Gastelum, who's been written off a little bit, especially by me. He looked great against Chris. You know, I thought Chris was going to box him up. Kelvin looked fast. He outstruck Chris. He looked great. And now he's in Arizona. He's cutting the weight because the big knock on Kelvin is, does he work as hard? He's got all the talent in the world. I've seen Kelvin Gastelum. He's been 5 feet in front of me. He's not a 185 pounder. He's just not. But he got away with being extremely talented. And sometimes when you're that talented, you don't work that hard, you know, a la BJ Penn. But I think he's putting it together. He looks good. He looks to be in shape. We'll see on weigh-in day if he can hit that 170 mark. But if he's on shape and you're giving me a plus number, I like it. I think his stand-up is head and shoulders above Brady. I know Brady likes to be a boxer, be in the pocket, but he's going to try to grapple Kelvin. Kelvin's takedown offense is just okay, but his get-up game is very good. At 170, I think his cardio is going to be elite. I almost placed a large wager on Kelvin Gastelum earlier this week. I didn't want to get ahead of myself, But I think I'm going to place it here and give me 3 units on Kelvin Gastelum. I'm going underdog 3 units.
Wow.
I know Kenny needs to get back. This is a pick'em fight. They call me basically a pick'em fight. They call me pick'em Petrie. At least I do in my house, and my kids are starting to. But I like Kelvin Gastelum. I convinced myself that he's a better striker, and I just don't trust Sean Brady yet because he hasn't shown me anything. Talks a lot, hasn't shown me anything. Give me Kelvin Gastelum.
Pick'em Petrie actually might be a better nickname than Big Gun Brian Petrie. And I knew you were going Gastelum just based upon him getting the better of your guy, Chris Curtis, last time out. Brian, I went wide here because Chris Curtis was a recent guest here on the Anik Florian podcast, as was Sean Brady, by the way. And Curtis called me Jason on the program.
Yeah, I know. I remember. And you said, I can't believe you just called me Jason. That's the greatest thing ever. Chris Curtis, having a little rough day. Have you seen social media? The guy's getting attacked right now. I sent him a text. Relax, bro.
Yeah.
It's just words.
He dove into the Ian Machado Gary.
Yeah. He got tangled up.
KenFlo, Kelvin Gastelum, still just 32 years of age, making his 22nd UFC appearance. On the other side, Sean Brady, of course, did not intend to miss a year. There was a nasty staph infection, took him out of the fight with Jack Della Maddalena in July. He was also to face Michel Pereira in April, but had to pull out. Now he's back on the horse in a huge spot here against Kelvin Gastelum. We need a prediction. Kenny Florian, who do you got?
Now, this is tough because I know Kelvin. I really like Kelvin. And Sean Brady, of course, has been on the show. And, Kelvin's been fighting a long time. He has a ton of experience because of it. He still has knockout power. I don't think his chin has held up as well as it did early on in his career. He had an iron chin for so long. I still think it's durable enough. It's good to see him at 170 pounds because I think it's going to force him to train hard and get ready for this one. Sean Brady is a guy that I think learned a lot in that last fight against Bilal, or at least should have. And having him on the show was great because you can kind of get, or for me anyway, get better insight into what he's thinking and what his feelings were coming off of that fight and how hard and how motivated it's made him, in preparation for these fights now. So this is where it gets interesting, boys. I see a lot of value here with Sean Brady.
Hey.
This is tough for me to go against Kelvin, who's my dude, great guy. I still think he has it in him. I'd be cheering for him if he won. I just think that Sean Brady has a lot of weapons and matches up pretty well here against Kelvin Gastelum. And I wrote down here +3, but I put it on Sean Brady. So we're going 3 versus 3.
Hey.
This is where it gets fun, boys.
Wow.
Anik Florian, I love it.
Hang on, I just want to text Gastelum. KenFlo.
You son of a bitch. Can you believe Kelvin's going?
It always seems to get
Johnny
certain fighters' radars when Kenny picks against them.
Oh, gosh.
All right, KenFlo, right back to you on this one, my man. Featured bout at 135 pounds. Perennial contender Rob Font, -135. By the way, my research today on Kenny Florian. Kenny, I didn't know you fought in fucking Taunton. You fought in fucking Revere, right?
Yeah.
You ever fight in fucking Barnstable, KenFlo, or no? You ever fight in fucking... You fight in fucking Dorchester? No, you fought in fucking Revere and Taunton. And then, hey, Kenny, you ever fight in fucking Danvers, Ken?
Everett, Gloucester.
You ever fight in a fucking smoker in fucking Abington, Ken? Fucking smokers in Abington, no? We got to focus here. All right.
Oh, man. Only our Boston crew.
Rob Font -135. Davison Figueiredo is +114. Figueiredo, the decorated former 2-time UFC flyweight champion, one of Cody and my all-time favorites, moving up here and being thrown right to the top of the division. 4 of Rob Font's last 5 fights have been UFC main events. And Kenny, that included that short notice spot versus Corey Sandhagen back in August. Font the favorite, Figueiredo the underdog. Which way you going?
Yeah, this is a great fight. I think this is going to be another classic Rob Font fight, Figueiredo classic fight, just because both these guys are very technical, very dangerous, can get it done everywhere. So I think this is definitely got fight of the night potential for sure. I'm curious to see how Figueiredo looks here in that weight class. I still think he can get it done. I think this is a very tough matchup for him. Rob Font is very, very technical, and I think it all comes down to how well he's able to establish that range, particularly with that excellent jab that he possesses. He's made huge improvements with his takedown game and his grappling game. I actually give him the edge here against Figueiredo, and I think if we're being honest, while Figueiredo is very good and very technical in his own right, what gave him that advantage down a weight class was his size, was his power. And I'm not sure he carries that same kind of advantage here in this fight and in this weight class. Still think he can be elite, but Rob Font is someone you can't sleep on. The odds aren't so out of whack here. I think there's great value on Rob Font. I'm going with Rob. Almost put a couple unis on him, but give me Rob Font, kid. Let's go.
Rob Font's long too, right? Yeah. I mean, his arms are long at 135 pounds. Hey, Bri, 3-rounder here though for Deiveson Figueiredo after 7 consecutive UFC title fights. He doesn't have to cut down to 125. Any value for you on Figueiredo, or you're like Rob Font as well, Bri?
I mean, there's definitely value on Figgy here, but I want to see him at 135. Kenny hit all the good points. They're both, let's just be honest, they're both coming off duds, right? Deiveson did not look great against Moreno. It could have been the weight cut. Moreno's an amazing fighter, but that's not the Deiveson who beat Moreno the fight before. That was a different guy. And then Rob Font getting taken down 7 times by Cody Sandhagen, can't get off the ground, kind of a lackluster main event. He has something to prove. Both these guys, I think, are going to come out and bang. I think Devison's going to have the better, he's going to be faster, but Rob Font in the pocket is just squeaky. I mean, look what he did to Adrian Yanez. I mean, the guy is clean in there, and his countering is perfect. His timing is really good. We know about his chin. You can hurt him, but he gets up every time. Robbie Font's a stud. I like him coming off that loss because now he's pissed off. He's a G. He's coming out there. He has a former champion, albeit a weight class below him, but he has a former champion to kind of go, I want that skull. I want this skull on my mantle. And I think he's going to go out there and he's going to be aggressive. He's going to get it. And, this isn't, it's a little bit of a pick'em. I mean, you can go underdog plus 114, but it's close to being a pick'em, Petrie. So give me 2 units of Robbie Font. Out here, we're swinging for the fences.
Let's go.
I like Robbie Font in this fight. I think his boxing's excellent. I think he's going to pick Deiveson apart, who does not have the best defense. Speed could kill, but give me Robbie Font.
All right, we got 2 more fights to pick, but real quickly, our executive producer, Cody Merrow, has asked Brian that before we move on, you musically say Deiveson Figueiredo. Are you able to do that to give us a soundbite for the future?
I don't know if because I've said his name so much that, I usually just go Deiveson Figueiredo. That's Figueiredo. There it is. I get a little English on the end of it. Figueiredo. There you go.
All right, there it is. All right, last 2 fights for the night.
I love that. Now we got sound effects. We're fucking
just wait till I get my Roosevelt songs approved, right? When the artist approves, and I can just do whatever I want. We do have a little bit of music here that we can play.
Going to the fucking moon, boys.
All right, last 2 fights of the night feature 4 the top 13 at 155 pounds in Islam Makhachev's division. Co-main event, Jalen Turner stepping in for the valiant Dan Hooker. And he is the minus 238 betting favorite here against Bobby Green, who is plus 195. The King is coming off that huge bonus winning knockout of Grant Dawson in a main event just last month, Brian. On the other side, we have Jalen Turner, in my opinion, making a smart career decision to step up and step in here. He has dealt with some injuries, some elbow issues, and he has now lost 2 straight, both by split decision to Mateusz Gamrot and, of course, the aforementioned Kiwi legend Dan Hooker. So Turner also, I would point out to you guys before you get to your selections, did miss weight for the first time in his career at UFC 290 this summer. Doesn't figure to get easier as he gets older, but he's only 28, but still not a lot of time to prepare. Brian Petrie, your thoughts on the co-main event?
Yeah, you knocked it apart, John. This is a scale fight. You got to wait to weigh in to place any kind of bet. I love Bobby Green at this dog money right now, but Jalen Turner is so skilled. I mean, Dan Hooker could be fight of the year. He could be walking home with a trophy. That fight was unbelievable. But his size coming off the couch, assumingly, I don't know if he's been training or what, but hopefully he's in with enough range to make 135 because he is a big boy. And Bobby Green, here's a guy who's been confident his entire career, and he's been around forever, right? Somehow found more confidence and somehow found that finishing ability that really, chased him his whole career. He didn't really have it until when he made to the big show. Now he's got it. Now he's just finding strikes and ultra confident. The only way to put Bobby Green out is to put him out like Poirier and Drew Dober did, but those were fights that he was actually doing really well in. They just got caught. Jalen Turner's a special striker. He's long, he's rangy. He spars with Sean Strickland all the time. This guy is elite. I'm worried about the time frame, worried about coming off the couch on a week's notice. Where's his timing at? Where's his condition at? So for right now, I'm going to take Jalen Turner because I like Jalen Turner's skills across the board. However, come weigh-in, we miss weigh-ins. He looks bad. I'll tweet out, switch into Group King Green because I think he's on a nice little run here. He's getting the best training of his career. And even he's a little older of a guy and he's long in the MMA, he's in that pocket of his career right now that you see a lot of fighters go through, that he's just winning. He's finding it. And I kind of love seeing it. And Bobby King Green cashes tickets for a lot of people. But Turner right now, overall skill, might switch to King Green.
All right, so Jalen Turner, Kenny, right now number 12 in the world, Bobby Green number 13. And I just think a good opportunity for Jalen Turner to sort of push the reset button on recent results. There's a lot of shine that comes with stepping up on short notice. But Bobby Green's still getting it done, 37 years of age. Kenny, your thoughts on the lightweight co-main event?
Another difficult one. I think that, I've been extremely impressed by what Bobby Green has done the last couple fights. I think that he's a very dangerous guy. He is clearly making improvements. I'm not sure I thought his heart was in it like it has, and it is. He has sold me there. But I do think this is another tough matchup for him and Jalen Turner. This is a step up. I think the size of Jalen Turner is no joke. I think Turner's ability to dictate range is going to make it very difficult to allow Bobby Green to do what he does best, which is get on the inside, land those shots. Jalen is good at keeping that distance. He's had some very tough fights his last two. And I think that's another guy who's going to learn from it. I mentioned that after his last loss. I could just see that Jalen Turner was making certain decisions and approaching it a little bit incorrectly as far as how he was reacting to some of the things. And a lot of that just comes with experience. And I think that he's a smart kid who's going to learn from that. So I think that Bobby is probably the more potent striker in some ways. But Jalen definitely has finishing ability in his own right, especially on the ground, especially with those long-range strikes with his kicks and things like that. So I think if he's able to dictate range with his jab, with his lead leg, I think it's going to be really tough for Bobby Green to do his thing. I think he could frustrate him throughout this fight, at the very least win by decision. If he sees an opportunity, I see Jalen actually being the guy who finishes it, because Jalen proved that he's got a very good chin as well. So give me Jalen Turner, man. I see a lot of potential in this kid.
Dana White doesn't like catch weights, and that's why I think this fight is not happening at 160 pounds. Maybe that changes during fight week, but I think part of the impetus for Jalen Turner making this fight and getting the UFC to give him this fight was that he told them that he could make 156 pounds. All right, Anik Florian Pod. Poll question. Who do you think wins the main event this weekend? Arman Tsarukyan, the favorite, or Beneil Dariush, the underdog? 59% of you like Beneil Dariush, who can be had right now on DraftKings Sportsbook, plus 235. Arman Tsarukyan is the favorite, minus 290. He is number 8 in the world. Dariush, number 4. So, Brian, we'll start with you here on the main event. Benny Dariush saw his 8-fight winning streak ended emphatically by Charles Oliveira back in May at UFC 288. Now he will try to regroup. And as a significant betting underdog, right? I mean, if you look back at the betting line for Charles Oliveira and Beneil Dariush, Dariush opened minus 120 or so. He opened minus 120 or so in some spots for this fight. And this thing has been bet way to the Tsarukyan side. So how do you see it playing out, and your thoughts on the price as it stands right now?
The price is amazing for Benny Dariush. I think Kenny's going to go Benny. I know they've been boys, and Kenny has a lot of good things to say about Benny, as do I. He did not look great against Oliveira. It looked like he went out a little too aggressive. Game plan was a little in the clouds, but you go back to the Gamrot fight, he looked amazing. And that's the type of fighter that Tsarukyan is. He is a Gamrot type fighter who likes to shoot, get on your legs. And Benny looks so strong in those positions. Obviously, his ground game is known to be fantastic. A little worried about the cardio because he did fade Oliveira. He kept the high pace and faded. This is 5 rounds, so I would like to see Benny there. But Benny's been so close and never really, so close, and he's not gotten it yet. And I think that's what they're trying to do here. They're trying to go to Arman Tsarukyan and go, listen, are you the guy, right? You're young. Are you the guy? we're going to give you this guy who's been proven to be the guy. Main event, see what you got. And with that pressure and everything on that, I like Tsarukyan here. I can't get behind Benny for some reason. I don't know. I've been trying to go back and forth and go, Benny's a better number. Play the number, Brian. But I think Tsarukyan, he's going to come out. He's coming off a knockout win. He's going to use his hands a little more. Benny has been susceptible to some big punches in the past. His grappling's lights out, but you can't clip him on the feet. Tsarukyan is known for a grappler, but man, I just see Tsarukyan really rounded in the form. He was one-dimensional when he fought Islam, and he's really rounded in the form here. I think he's been 5 rounds. His cardio is tested. He's a young guy. He's hungry, and this is a prove-it fight. I think if Tsarukyan doesn't win, I don't think he touches gold. If he does win, I think we're looking at maybe a future champion at 155. So give me arm around Tsarukyan.
You know how much I like that pressure. KenFlo, what do you have on the main event at 155 pounds? Arman Tsarukyan or Beneil Dariush?
Fantastic fight. I think that Benny is a dangerous fighter. I think that he's an excellent grappler. He's got knockout power. He's as tough as they come. But I didn't love that last fight. I was a little surprised by Benny and his approach. And he does have this tendency of either getting overwhelmed by the moment or perhaps getting a little too reckless and emotional in that process during that fight. And I would have liked to seen more composure because he does have so much potential. He is excellent in all areas. He's more than that. He's dangerous really in all areas. But he's going against a guy in Arman Tsarukyan who really doesn't, he's aggressive without throwing himself out of position. He doesn't make a whole lot of glaring mistakes. I don't see him just because of his experience, his training, and just the way that he's built of throwing himself into some kind of submission against Benny. I think it's possible. I just don't think it's really that probable at this stage of the game. I also think he's a much cleaner striker as well. And I agree with Brian. It's kind of it's not necessarily do or die, but this is his moment to kind of establish himself as a true star in the division and a guy who could maybe be, I don't know, one of the few real challenges for a guy like Islam Makhachev. And of course, they have a history together, and I thought he performed extremely well. So I don't know. I actually like Tsarukyan here. I actually think just the matchup alone makes him really, really difficult against someone like Benny. And I think it's such a good matchup that I want to put +2 units on Tsarukyan. So I think this should be a fun fight. It's going to be tough for either one to get the finish, but Tsarukyan, I think, just has a little bit more momentum heading his way here.
Just when I think I know Kenny, he goes opposite and more units. This fucking guy's an enigma to me. I love it.
All right, we'll see where the line closes. Get your action in on DraftKings Sportsbook. You can follow Brian Petrie at Brian Petrie MMA. My man, appreciate the time. Talk to you next Monday, if not sooner, champ.
You guys are the best. See ya. Good seeing you, Jay.
Yeah, boy. There he is, Brian Petrie, with us for the main event challenge. All right, we got to bounce on out of here. Thank you to our guests, Impa Kasanganay, Ray Longo, Jason Anik, Brian Petrie. JonAnik.com is live. We got anything going on the site this week? Still 25% off or no? Yeah, 25% off through the rest of the month of November. Got some nice winter hats up there for you, Flo, with the pom-pom on top. You like that? And you see KenFlo's got the mug right there. Kenny Florian, martialarts.com is live. Also check out KenFlo's system, Argus Integrated Defense. Jay and I are back with you either Wednesday or Thursday with Anik Squared. More NFL picks against the spread, also on the DraftKings YouTube channel. Thanks to our executive producer, Cody Merrow, the best in the business, putting it all together. And don't forget, you can join us for the World MMA Awards coming up December 14th in Vegas. Our entire team will be out there, so wheels up, make the trip, join us for UFC 296, and hopefully we'll have some sort of meet and greet and can meet a lot of the best listeners in the podcast space. With that, for KenFlo, I'm Jon Anik. Thank you all for watching, for listening. Tell your friends. We will talk to you next Monday. Until then, yo fucking later.
Are you sure we're not in the Boston Garden? Yeah. Now every time I start a verse, I break at least 3 commandments. Kinda like Pluto, because I never planned it. I'm outlandish in a way that make Apaches look like they own ranches. It's the art of war, your blood's the only color on the canvas. And I don't mean it like a thug sense of how you can get got. Fuck being gangsta, I'm hip-hop. You got it every time you walk in the label, the A&R's like nodded. Immune to your shit, cause I circle, dotted. Body heat is a toxic leak, got a beat, I don't got it. Street cop and see, start to think psychic lick, make the speakers speak elitistly. Off their high horse, make an ass of their views. Your DJ must not know the alphabet, forgetting his cues. My favorite DJ got those and 6 extra L's to abuse. Esoteric John P, and I'm the new kid at school. I'm Radar Ellis, nice to meet you, short busting my styles. Egocentric, ego tripping with frequent flyer smiles.
DJ wants to get at the bird, he gets at the bird. And Bird takes the shot.
You wanna set it on us? We got